I will say this shamelessly. We're not in the service business. We're not in the hospitality business. We are retailers. Our job is to sell those rooms that are a perishable product every day. If I don't sell the room today, it's gone tomorrow. If I sell t-shirts, if I don't sell the t-shirt today, it's still around tomorrow. I could resell it again tomorrow. And retail has figured this out where they say, we're not about transaction, we're about experience. We want you to love the brand. We want your loyalty to our brand. Then you can come transact with us. I live in Portland, Oregon, where Nike is based. And Nike knows you're not walking to the store and buying something. You're walking, you're screwing around, you're trying it on, you're going to buy it online. Would not pay tax in your state or have it shipped to you. So I think in the middle, if we don't find a way to create loyalty with our customers through knowing them and seeing them, and finding ways to differentiate that are thoughtful, back to the respite idea, and to Zach's point about having a sense of discovery in those places, we're going to lose our way.
Social platforms are going to be the new OTAs.
Whoever owns the moment of intent controls the bookings.
Are we going to get a bubble? There are thousands of hotels with hundreds of rooms that still need to be filled.
We're going to be focused on this independent, cool lifestyle and luxury, but I have to market like a bank.
I think that we can give our 2 cents into the stories that are going on.
Will be in your ears and on your screens every Friday morning.
Let's do it.
Let's roll.
This is the gold, bro. This is the gold.
All right, everybody, welcome back to your favorite podcast, the thing you look forward to waking up every Friday morning to. We are here. The quad is back, but we've got another member, a guest member, an honorary bestie, some might say, Bashar Wali. Bashar, I don't know, you don't really need an introduction, quite frankly. I mean, if you don't know Bashar, like, are you even in hospitality? Do you even know anything about hotels? Your feed probably...
I am a legend in my own mind, so that's all that matters. I don't care what anybody else thinks.
He's incredibly irreverent, yet like surprisingly poignant at times. You know, I don't know. Bashar, you're really good at dropping F-bombs and then dropping truth bombs kind of in the same sentence, right? Would you identify with that?
That's what full of shit people do, sure. You know, the beauty what I identify is I say I thankfully have no one to answer to, and I'm very fortunate. So then it's kind of very freeing, right? No investor, no boss, no board. And
yeah, makes it easier.
It is an envious position. I wish it upon everyone because there's so many amazing smart people out there that have to bite their tongue. Yep. And I talk to them in the dark alleys smoking a cigarette every once in a while, and they are brilliant. Unfortunately, they can't show their brilliance because they have to follow some PR script.
Yeah. Well said. I remember, Bashar, we first connected on LinkedIn. I had you on my show, and then the first time I met you was actually at an ILC event in Miami. Then I met you in real life, and I will never forget this. Bashar was one of those people where like everywhere you turn, somehow somebody's talking about how like this is their best friend. Like I think 4 different people introduced Bashar to me like as their best friend. Like, oh my gosh, Zach, do you know? It's like the number of times I heard, "Do you know Bashar?" Or like, "Have you thought about?" Oh, like, well, I wonder what Bashar thinks about this. Was insane. So I don't know what Ponzi scheme you're running, man, or like exactly. I don't know like what's going on, but somehow everyone thinks you're great. And everyone thinks
except those who really know me. Scott, when people meet me, I say, they're like, "Oh my God, nice to meet you." I'm like, "Give it time. Give it time.
Give it 5 minutes.
We'll give you the hour."
Yeah. Thank you. You're very kind, Zach. I appreciate it.
Well, it's an honor to have you, man, and really appreciate you making the time. I actually thought, so I want to talk about the news as we do every week, but I want to give the team here a little bit of time to ask you a question. So we each get one question with Bashar about anything, whether it's a piece you've written, a hot take you have, something you recently shouted about on LinkedIn. And I want to go to Ben first here.
Politics,
religion. I mean, Bashar, anything's on the table for Bashar.
Literally, and I am ready. Fire away. Someone said, "Do you have a?" I'm like, there is. I've never crossed that line yet, so I don't think I have one. So try me.
Ben, why don't you tee up a question for Bashar
starting
first?
with Ben.
Yeah, look, so I have one question actually related to the story that we're going to talk about later. So the ladies and gentlemen, luxury has left the building. So I love the whole concept of what you're talking about there and sort of, having a sense of place and, taking risks, doing things that are unique, not having the same boring soulless box. I think that a big part of the problem is the capital. Right? The banks, the institutional investors, since 2008, they have only funded things that are boring soulless boxes or the same exact formula that's in Texas as in Thailand type thing. So where do you see that going? How do you see developers securing the capital they need to create these amazing concepts that deliver what the luxury traveler and frankly, like the modern traveler more broadly want.
Great question, Ben. And what Ben is talking about is this piece I just wrote on LinkedIn about, ladies and gentlemen, luxury has left the building.
We're going to riff on it later, so don't worry.
Great. So for those who don't know me, I'm a hotel guy. That's all I've done my whole life, 30 years, literally from the ground up, worked every job across the spectrum, on and on and on and on. But the real education I've got is on the streets of hard knocks, essentially. So my neurotic claim to fame is the one night stand thing I do. Any city I go to, 3 nights, I move 3 times, never the same hotel twice. I've kept track only in New York. I do this across the globe. And I stayed in my 280th hotel in Manhattan this last week. And again, sure, bragging rights and street cred and all of that, I'll take it all. But really, at the end of the day, it is education. So when I speak, and I want to be clear, when I talk about things, I'm not suggesting that my hotels are perfect. I'm suggesting that that's the perfect state we should all be aspiring to, right? So that's just a little bit of setup. Ben, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I'm running independent hotels. And every time we go to a lender, they're like, oh, independent. No, we don't do independents. We need Marriott or Hilton. And it was like, wait, what? Some, again, 28-year-old snot-nosed MBA who he or she thinks they know better than you. And I'm like, well, tell me why. So we got into this debate about why does Wall Street prefer brands? And the truth bomb here is Wall Street is lazy. Scott, the banker, who issues a loan for a Marriott is never going to get fired because he's going to say, what do you want? It's Marriott. It's the king of them all. But if Scott had to originate a loan for an independent, 2 things have to happen. Scott has to do a lot of homework to say, well, what is this? Who's behind it? Do they know what they're doing? I have to convince Scott, the banker, that my penetration of the market and my rate and my occupancy will do equally as good or even better. And the reason I raised that example is over time, Wall Street it's still there. They're still lazy. They still prefer the comfort of the brand, which is really a downside case protection scenario because they think Marriott or Hilton or IHG will serve you better in a down market. And I could make that argument. I think it's location dependent, but we're talking about sort of urban lifestyle hotels. It took us a while to convince them and show them by actually demonstrating that that is in fact a sound business case. I mean, I got loans, CMBS non-recourse loans on independent hotels in the hundreds of millions of dollars for 3%, 4%, 10-year fixed rate. And people were like blown away that they did it on an independent. And I use that analogy and that example to say that this is an education because you said it, institutional capital maybe isn't the right capital for those kinds of assets because institutional capital relies on a formula. By the way, if you take a lot of those hotel REITs that exist, go look at any of them, maybe with one exception, and I won't name any names. You look at them from inception, from literally day one to today, 10 years, 15 years, they're a terrible investment. Maybe it's not the right thing to do. Yesterday, I was at Boston University's real estate symposium at the hospitality school, and we were talking about real estate and development and maybe the reset that's needed in the market. And one of the things we were talking about is, and I raised this point, is I said, you cannot expect in today's world, given construction costs, interest rates, labor rates, et cetera, to hit the kind of returns you wanted 10 years ago. Because private equity, Ben, wants 20, 25% IRR in 5 years. And one of the gentlemen on my panel was talking about, well, we shouldn't underwrite 5 years anymore. We should underwrite 10 years. So circling back to your question, maybe institutional isn't the right investor for these kinds of assets in today's environment, because I don't think they've come to the realization that they should adjust their return expectations given the world, nor are the returns they expect realistic. You're not getting a 25% IRR. Like I always say, if you want to go to New York, you're not getting a 20% IRR. If I go to Des Moines, Iowa, I want a 30% IRR, risk adjusted, and they're not thinking about it that way. So the really short answer that I gave you, the long version of to your question is, you have to find the right kind of capital. And you have to have a differentiator. And no offense, guys, we all deal with the same thing. Another wellness hotel with blah, blah, blah and longevity. Like you have to convince the investor, Wall Street or otherwise, that what you're doing is uniquely different and will actually accomplish the goal. Now, the single fundamental problem broadly that will cover every topic we talk about is the following. Our industry is controlled by middle-aged white men in blue suits who think they have good taste and know what's up. And the sad reality is they don't. And until they realize that they don't and rely on their people to tell them what's up, And to your comment, Ben, this is a generational question. Sure, if I'm 65 and I think Peninsula or Four Seasons is the way, I'm not listening to any of this other stuff that you're talking about until I go and talk to my kid at home who says, Peninsula, you wouldn't find me dead in a Peninsula. I want to go to one hotel. I want to go to all those other ones.
Yep. It's really hard to tell someone they have bad taste.
Really but this is the issue, right? Like, no one thinks they have bad taste. No one thinks they have. And I can't imagine. Very few people will actually say, you know what, picking colors is not my thing. But that's the fun part. Everybody wants to do it. Yeah. And we end up seeing and the example is, and maybe I mentioned it in this article or one of the 10,000 I write every week to pontificate and complain, is some developer goes to Nashville, stays at the Thompson, comes back to Cleveland and calls his designer, said, I stayed at the Thompson in Nashville. I want a Thompson, create me a Thompson. Mm-hmm. So you end up with the copy, paste. I'm calling the space I play in generally, sort of upscale and upper upscale, I call it the muddy middle now. It is so muddy. Everything looks the same. And if you think about, and please don't vomit in your mouth, I am going to say the K word, the K-shaped recovery, which is a political statement in a way. The middle is getting whacked and the middle class is getting whacked. So all of a sudden, all these hotels that I play in, and this is a fundamental issue, I have to push the rates so much because my costs are going up so much. So now Zach comes to stay at my 4-star hotel and my rate is $350. And he says, what the hell? For $50 more, I'll go to luxury. And luxury means, bigger bathroom, 5-fixture bathroom, all the things you would get with it. So we're having this issue now because Zach, who would be my customer normally, is upgrading for a little money to luxury. And I'm stuck in that sort of muddy middle. Or maybe Ben, who can't afford to travel, who's saying, you know what, I'll stay at Airbnb or I'll downgrade or I won't travel at all. So I really, truly believe our industry, and again, we talked about this yesterday, nauseam, has fundamental cracks in the foundation that we're just ignoring.
I also think that some travelers that maybe historically based on socioeconomic status wouldn't opt for luxury are saving up and saying, okay, I'll do less trips, but I will splurge on that one of a kind experience as opposed to taking 2 trips in that sort of,
Okay, I agree with you. Yeah. I agree with you. More like I practice this now in everything in life, in my closet, shoes, whatever, like buy 1 better than 2 mediocre, right?
Yep.
The issue with that though is the following. I was talking to a gentleman to remain nameless about a company to remain nameless, and their claim to fame is butlers, right? So this guy's going off and off and off about butlers on stage. So I say, hold 1 second. I turn to the room. I say, who here has ever seen anyone of any age group and any social media outlet of any sort bragging about their butler? Crickets. Who here has seen the button next to the bed that says press here for champagne? Every hand goes up. So there's also this fundamental issue that we continue to think that luxury today is what it was 10, 15, 20 years ago, our parents' luxury. It is not anymore. I mean, you think about the .com boom and now the sort of the social media boom. Millionaires and billionaires don't show up in 3-piece suits and Bentleys anymore. They literally show up in a Tesla wearing shorts and a t-shirt. And those people would not be caught dead with a butler. The butler I want at any luxury, I don't care if I'm staying at Amman and paying $4,000, $10,000 a night. The butler I want is what I want when I want it. Don't force some guy to stand out beside my door with a bow tie. My butler, by the way, is WhatsApp, right? It's my luxury is WhatsApp. Extra pillows. I don't want to think about it. Extra pillows show up, right? Now, if I want something ceremonial, because there's something about ceremony. Like if I want to go have tea in Japan, I want all the bells and whistles. But by the way, and again, forgive the brag, Noma and 11 Madison and French Laundry, sure, I'll go and say, I don't have 4 hours of my life to give you for dinner. I want to go to the amazing bistro down the street. I don't care how much it costs. I want the best ingredient, incredible service. Get me in and get me out. And if I don't want to go out, don't rush me. If I want to sit at the table for 3 hours and order fancy wine, let me. That to me is luxury is time. It's no longer marble. It's no longer ladies and gentlemen serving. It is literally time. And the butler, although it sounds good, it's extra work. Like now I have to engage and think about it. I don't want to think. Again, not for everyone. And I'm specifically talking about North America because Asia and the Middle East and all that, they probably love that. Fine, let them have it. But I think for our society, we're past that stage.
Yeah. I think it's overly deferential. Totally agree.
Yeah. On the butler note, I was staying at the Fifth Avenue Hotel in New York, which was incredible property, right? Absolutely
Fantastic
love it.
hotel.
Very, very great hotel. And they have a butler. They have a couple. They have at least 2 that I met when I was there. Anyways, I was talking to a colleague who's my same age, who also likes nice things, who travels a bunch as well. And for both of us, it was the first time we ever had somebody like, you know, try to walk into our room, right? We were sitting next to each other. So he knocks on the door. I open the door, and the butler just like starts walking into the room. And I was like, "Oh, he's like, oh, sir, I'm so sorry." And like, I think he could read that I was a little surprised, a little caught off guard what was going on. And he's like, "Oh, I'm here to unpack your bag." And I was like, "Oh, appreciate it, man. I got it though.
Don't touch my shit."
Exactly. And I felt, and he's an incredible gentleman, like very, very kind.
Sure,
but like,
sure.
it was a moment where I realized, oh my gosh, you know, because I'm not staying in Fifth Avenue hotels all over the world every night.
Sure.
I should have assumed that when the butler knocks and I open the door and he starts taking a step, it's because he wants to come in. But that wasn't my first assumption.
Sure.
And so again, that generational shift.
And on that
in
note, by the way,
preferences.
I'll give you another sort of alternate example of that. I'm in New York. I forget the name of the hotel. I order an extra towel, and a little R2D2 thing comes up to my room and gives me the towel. That's perfectly fine. Because remember, I'm probably half naked. I don't want to open the door, blah, blah, blah. It's easier. It's easier that way. Now, I am the one who preaches human connection in nauseam. I don't need a human connection to get my towel. Right. So I think we either overdo it or we overdo it the other way. Like we never figure out how to find that balance. We always swing. By the way, politics, religion, classes, like we always as a society want to go to the extremes. Let's play in the middle. Give me luxury, but let's really play down this idea. Again, think about the example I often use in fashion is, I don't know, let's use Gucci as an example. Who would have thought 20 years ago that Gucci would have graffiti on their bags, drawings and all of that?
Right.
But Gucci realized our customer is now an 80-year-old lady. She's not buying bags anymore. Her daughter wants to buy bags. Let's make it appropriate for her. I don't think luxury hospitality has used that analogy. I don't see the animal prints on our walls anymore. I see it extreme. We go crazy with it, and it doesn't make sense. But like you look at Fifth Avenue, by the way, Martin Brzezinski, one of my favorite designers, like that's really, that sort of old world meets new world. It's beautiful.
It's incredible.
It seems like it would be. Jackie Kennedy could have decorated it, but it works well for Zach, your age group, and younger age group.
Scott, I want to go to you, man. What's your hot question? Your one big question for Bashar.
So everyone in hospitality talks about creating something that feels human. But the reality is most hotels are still built around systems. And when I say most, I mean 99%. Efficiency, predictability, all that garbage. And at what point does that model break? And what does a truly human-first hotel actually look like when you're trying to scale it across multiple properties without killing profitability?
So again, great questions in the perfect time, because this was a big conversation on the panel that I had yesterday. I had two big brands on my panel and then not. But I'm going to put it back to you and say, what do you want? Because sometimes what Scott wants is, I don't want to deal with anyone. I want to get in and get out of my room. I do this with brands sometimes, the mobile key and all of that. I literally do not see a soul. I zip through, get on the elevator, get to my room, get out and go out. That's commodity. And there are customers who want commodity. Listen, I talk a lot about Maslow's hierarchy of need. At the very bottom of that pyramid is the very most basic human need, shelter. Guess what, people? That's the business we're in. We are in the shelter business. We're at the very bottom. And I use gasoline as the example. When I go to get gas for my car, I could care less about your logo. I could care less about your tagline. I could care less about the dancing cars on the screen. I want price and location, because to me, gas is a commodity. And there are some customers that want commodity in hotels. Let's give them that. I think fundamentally those who want an experience, okay, and I'm vomit-inducing word, experience, curated, handcrafted, authentic, biophilic, disruptive,
redefining
on
luxury.
Exactly. Ignore all of those words for a minute. If I want an experience, I personally believe, and I'm an early adopter, I'm not saying never, for the time being, experience is about feelings. Like when you see a beautiful place, your eyes feel it, but it's really the emotion it invokes in you that gives you that feeling. And for the time being, when I walk into a hotel with beautiful design and beautiful scent and beautiful art and branding everywhere and la-di-la-di-la, sure, all these things are accretive to the experience. But ultimately, for me, the experience is about the engagement I have with a person. So if that's what I want, then you should give me that. And the way you do it, technology is fantastic. And again, I am an early adopter, personally and professionally. I keep screaming this. Please use technology to remove the friction. So Scott, now instead of needing 3 people at the front desk to ask me to sign an initial and insert my card and do all that bullshit, hire one much better person, pay them better, give them the leeway and the ability and the training they need to actually say, welcome. By the way, I am actually working on this right now. I want to go to the theater world and hire a trainer to come and train people. Imagine this, Scott. You're coming to my hotel. You've had the worst experience coming. We can talk about the TSA and the planes and all the nonsense we deal with coming to a place. Your bar is so low. When you arrive, I want someone to literally dramatically, who's on the phone, drop the phone on the ground and literally just do this and look at you and say, welcome. Until we can train robots to do that, and I'm not saying we won't, we might, emotional intelligence, which for the time being is exclusively reserved for humans and mammals broadly, including humans. Like you give me a cute dog, same difference. I don't need to talk to you, Scott. I'll go talk to the dog. Stick a dolphin in the lobby. I'm all about it. I'll go pet the dolphin. But for the time being, that's what it's exclusive to. So if we focus on removing the friction, it allows us to afford, because listen, I'm no dummy, luxury or not, we need to look at the bottom line, which is getting whacked left, right, and center. I can have less people that are better trained, better paid, so they stick around, so we're not dealing with the revolving door. That to me is what human first experience is. Human first experience also is, hey Scott, I want pho soup. Where should I go? Sure, I can do it on ChatGPT. Sure. But no. I want to know where Scott, who isn't getting paid a lot of money, standing behind the front desk, where do you go? Like that to me. By the way, I use in my public speaking the Cheers example for those of you who still remember that show. I think most of maybe Ben and Zach won't. Cheers, the TV show tagline was where everyone knows your name. It wasn't, we have the best list, we're award winning, we have the biggest wine, and if you think about that very premise, back to Maslow for a minute, at the very top of Maslow is self-actualization, transcendence. And to me, transcendence comes from the following. Scott, I see you. You are a person, you're a human, you matter. Robots can't do that. Algorithm can't do that. Humans for now, mammals can do that. So I think it's really, really simple, the human first. It's not about the things. By the way, ask me where the pho is. I might go look it up on ChatGPT for you, but I want to tell you. It's reserved to me. I want to tell you. And I will also close by saying Airbnb's brilliance. Think about this for a minute. I go to book a room at any place. I'm going into this deep, dark, black corporate hole, right? And Betty, who's talking to me, the chat, it's a bot. I know it's a bot. Airbnb says, the minute you decide to book with us, guess who's dealing with you? A host. Think about the use of language, the word host. It's warm, it's fuzzy, I feel like I got a hug. I'm talking to Ben, my host, who cares about me, who's another human. So I think to some extent, this idea for the time being will always resonate. The bar is really low. You don't have to you don't need armies of people, ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen. You just need to think about where is it important, like we talked about Butler. I don't need the human connection when I'm getting the towel half naked. But I want it when I'm talking about, hey, where should I go today? Like, I don't want to do the ChatGPT concierge. I want to talk to someone who appears to have good taste and better have good taste, like you probably experienced at the Fifth Avenue Hotel, Ben.
I think
Sorry,
too,
Zach.
Yeah, no. I think an interesting nuance there too, which is something I spend time thinking about, is like travel presents this opportunity to experiment, right? Like, so it's one thing to be known, right? It's another thing to like, oh wow, I'm away from my children tonight. I could actually like go out, or I could decide to go to bed early and wake up early and do a workout, or like, hey, you know what? I normally am a coffee three Nespresso a day kind of guy, but you know what? I'm feeling this Mexican resort that I'm at. Maybe I try some like local tea that people keep pushing on me. And so there's this interesting like dichotomy, right? When we travel, between wanting to be known, as you're saying, Bashar, but then also maybe wanting
not known, seen. Two different things.
Seen, right?
Seen is a nebulous thing. Is I see through you. Known is I know you. I know your face. I'm not talking about your face. I'm talking about connecting with your soul. That's being seen. Like, by the way, I use it in work. Scott, good job, team. And Scott's like, what the fuck? Like, team, what about me? Like we get washed up in this team, and I don't want to be washed up in the VIP list, because the VIP list is transactional. You being known is being on the VIP list. You being seen is the lowest common denominator. A housekeeper who walks by you in the hallway and stops and smiles. He or she doesn't need to say hello. They don't need to speak English. If you train your people to stop in their tracks, I'm trying to remember Palmilla in Cabo. It's a little culty the way they do it, is they stop, even the landscapers, and they put their hand on their heart. Fine. But I think the act, that's being seen. That's being seen. That's not being known. It's two different things.
Fair. But the larger point I'm trying to make too is I think where it presents an opportunity for hoteliers and for teams is is to be a place where I can be comfortable, right? I can be seen. I can have all the things that I would normally want, but then there's also this invitation to more, right? So like, yeah, maybe Zach normally goes for the bourbon, but like maybe present him with, and I know that that's what he wants, or I see that that's what he wants because it's logged in his profile, right?
Sure.
But right, Zach, today I don't want to do bourbon because I want to try something else, right? And so there's this fun, I think, just balance the hospitality industry has as an opportunity to kind of be this place that's both like discerning about is this a time where Ben wants the familiar or a time when Ben wants like the unexpected?
Two strings I want to pull on here. One is one of my hotel heroes is Sean McPherson, New York, Chelsea, Maritime, Ludlow. I had him on stage and he says, look, I don't go to the coffee shop and pay $17 for a latte because I need caffeine because it's a drug. I can push the button at home and get the caffeine. I go to the coffee shop or the restaurant or the hotel, not for the shelter, not for the sustenance, not for the drug. I go because it's a respite in my day. To your point, no kids. When I go to a coffee shop and I'm standing there for a minute or 2 or 5, literally the entire world could be on fire. I could care less. I don't care how many emails I have. I don't care what's happening. I am in the moment. It's a respite of my day, in my day. And I think if we think about hotels in the same way, back to my earlier comment about commodity versus experience, we've lost a sight of this respite idea. We make it hard for you. We get in your way because we either present you with too much ceremony or not enough. So I think we've lost that. And respite is an emotional word. Like, I want you to come and feel at home. I've trademarked longing for belonging. All I'm after is if you feel that you belong when you walk in, I've won already. And I think, again, we can't do that with robots and efficiency. Yeah. So that's the one string. The other string is this idea that, again, when I walk into a hotel and it is a respite, I also want to learn new things. I used to say hotels were bastions of inspiration. They had Wi-Fi before you did at home. They had flat screen before you did it at home. They had pay-per-view movies, good mattresses, good art, good design. You fast forward to today, your home is exponentially better. Your digital experience is better. Your Wi-Fi is better. Your art's better. So how do we, again, regain our positions as aspirational and inspirational? One of the lines I have to use is, I'm like, the hell with your Instagrammable moments. Give me some Shazamable moments. Like, when was the last time you walked into a lobby like, oh my God, amazing songs? So I think it's a great point about, I haven't tried Japanese whiskey before. Amazing. But that comes, again, from humans, not from a QR list with a menu. It comes from Ben, the bartender, who says, you order a Scotch, Zach, and he says, have you ever had Japanese whiskey? Let me give you a taste on me. Right? That, to me, you need to discover new things. And I've always said hoteliers' job are to be the merchants of cool. Like, we are, think about all the people in our past, Schrager, Balaz, etc. They were the merchants of cool. But now we've lost that. So how do we gain it again? It's not going to come from a QR code. It's going to come from think about what shows you watch, what apps you download. It mostly comes from other people's recommendations. So when I go to a hotel, to your point, and I want to try something new, I want someone to tell me about it and introduce me to it without a commitment. Here's a little taste. Here's an amuse-bouche from the chef. And that requires attention to detail, and it requires people to have an entrepreneurship spirit, because the SOP can't tell you to do that, because then it'll be a nightmare, right? Labor and cost and all of that. But you need to create an environment where Scott, the waiter, is going to say, Zach is confused about what to get on the menu. I want Scott to say, give me 1 second, and go in the back and bring you a little bite. Say, try this.
Zach is confused often. I will say, Bashar, that you mentioned the Rosewood San Miguel de Allende, one of my favorite hotels that I've ever been to in my life. I love that hotel so much. It's so special.
It is a great hotel. It is a great hotel.
When you were sharing that story, I was thinking about this time I was on Maui, and it was actually at a Marriott hotel, and it was one of those situations where the staff were clearly trained to like stop right if someone was walking the hallway. Anytime that happens to me, I feel this pressure to keep walking like faster, right? Like, I'm like, cause like, she's like, the lady's like literally like a football field away from me, and she stops in her tracks, and I'm like, damn it. And so like, I'm like running, and I'm like bringing my suitcase, I'm sweating. And then I'm like, thank you. I'm like, you're clearly doing this because you're supposed to, but like, it's now an inconvenience because now I have to freaking haul ass.
You know why? Because that's an SOP. It cannot be an SOP. It has to be 100%. Organic and natural. It cannot be an SOP.
Couple final questions for you, Bashar. Before we tackle some of the stories of the week, last week, Skiff wrote this piece, which I thought was fantastic. It was really great reporting. It's called The Squeeze. It got a lot of attention in the at least the LinkedIn kind of B2B hospitality space. Talked about this crisis that American hotel owners are facing. We talked about it ad nauseum last week, so I won't rehash the whole story. But I wanted your perspective, Bashar, on kind of the state of the hotel investor. You talked a little bit about this via Ben's question, but you're deeply connected in the YPO community. You have deep insight into the general appetite for hotel investment. You obviously know operators really well. You're friends with some of the best independent owners and operators in the country. When you hear the argument this article is making, right, about the squeeze that is happening to the hotel owner, this article specifically not attacks but outlines just how much money the branded hotel owner is losing. Right now, the market the segment that they primarily focus on is maybe that middle that you were talking about, maybe even like lower middle. The story revolves around a Red Roof Inn, right, owner. What is the ground truth? Like, what are you hearing at happy hours from folks who are in the hotel investment world about branded hotels generally? Do people feel the squeeze? Are the fees getting absurd to the point where people are walking away from the flags? Is the article a little dramatic and overblown? Like, give us, right, your sense for the state of what the hotel investor is feeling.
Oh boy, how much time do I have? That is a very loaded question. Okay, so the broad general state of the industry is not great. The headlines sound good, but the underlying fundamentals are not good. We talked about cost of capital. We talked about interest rates. Last year, my portfolio had a 2% RevPAR increase. My health insurance cost went up 13%. That's one example. So you start thinking about what's happening. Cost of living is up everywhere. We can only afford to give people CPI. We give it 3%, yet prices are going up 10, 15%. So the model is definitely broken. We are fighting for margin at every turn. And to Scott's earlier point, we run towards technology and hide behind it as early adopters while we're trying to eliminate people and cut cost. So generally speaking, the state of the industry broadly in North America is not fantastic from a sort of fundamental results standpoint. When you really, really look at recovery post-pandemic and you look at 2019 and you adjust for inflation, because you hear these numbers and they sound great, but when you adjust for inflation, which has been roaring, we're almost not back to 2019 yet broadly. Luxury has been carrying the bag, right? Because luxury is price insensitive, they'll pay whatever, but everything below it, literally everything below it is bleeding. We thought a World Cup would save us. The World Cup numbers are abysmal and not exciting. America 250, not much is happening. The political hyperbole nonsense. I traveled extensively in Europe last month and I had to apologize profusely and say I'm Canadian on some occasions. It is, the fundamentals are not great. Yesterday, I had two big brands on my panel at Boston University, and I said the following. I said, look, we signed up with you mostly because you are reliable, you save us a lot of money, we pay the least amount for OTA costs with you, et cetera, et cetera. All that has been democratized. Like, I use Hilton Supply Management as an independent. So whatever I pay for toilet paper is what the Hilton pays for toilet paper. It doesn't matter. All that stuff has been democratized. The OTA is still the one number they hold that's no one can pay as little as they do, yet Airbnb just entered in that space with their own OTA and they're charging 13%. So they've taken that away. And in an agentic AI era, when the machines own the conversation, I said to this one brand, I said, what do you actually own anymore? Just the flag on the door? Like, what do you own? And by the way, don't get me started, Zach, you and I have had this conversation ad nauseum about loyalty and bribery and what is the difference between the two and what you get today with brands. Scott, you come to my Hilton, I give you points. If I stop giving you points, will you still come? No, that's not loyalty. That is the very definition of, that is the dictionary definition of bribery. I give you something, you come. I stop giving it, you don't come. I'm bribing you to come. And by the way, the owner is paying the bill for those points. So there's been a lot of revolt against the brands vis-a-vis the costs. The other fundamental issue people don't think about with the brands, pre-internet, the brands had huge value. I'm used to Marriott in the US. I was going to Prague. I would tell my travel agent or my assistant, book me a room in Prague. And he or she knew, oh, Marriott, easy. I know what I'm getting. And when the internet democratized that offering by having real-time user-generated, that power went away, right? So when you think about the value proposition of a brand in the pre-internet era, it was very valuable, right? Like I didn't want to mess around in Prague. I wanted lunch. I went to TGI Fridays. I knew what I was getting. I wouldn't be caught dead going to that today. So if they charged me $1 back then and their value was here, well, your value is here today. Why the hell are you still charging me $1? What am I getting for that $1? So fundamentally, the brands really, truly need to rethink their offering because they don't own any of the touch points anymore. They literally own the flag at the door and they haven't thought about it. Now, what the brands bring, which they're not bringing, what the brands should bring, I said this to a Marriott person the other day. I said, I am perplexed and shocked that Marriott does not have 7 MIT PhDs sitting in an office in Bethesda saying, we have all these guest data points. What do we do with it? How do we make it more profitable, more personable, more? Doesn't exist. By the way, I'm Titanium Elite on Marriott. I've stayed in hundreds across the globe. I like my room morgue temperature year round, 64 degrees. You would think once ever, at any hotel across the chain scale, somebody from their desk pushed the button, lowered the temperature, and took credit for it. So my point is, what is the value of the brand? If you don't know me as a customer and I'm your top tier customer, you don't own any of the transactions anymore. And by the way, agentic AI is agnostic to my status. They don't care that I'm Titanium Elite. They care about whatever the machine is finding and it's connecting me with. So what is their value? So we're seeing a lot of owners. Revolt is the wrong word. And back to our very earlier conversation, a lot of owners still believe, and it is still true in many cases, that the flag checks a box. It checks a lender's box, it checks an investor box, and it is a down case scenario protector because we believe the distribution will be there. But fundamentally today, if they don't rethink what they're doing, but the only advantage they can bring back to that point is they have the resources and the wherewithal to really help us on the technology front. I'm not seeing it. What is Hilton doing about AI? Truly innovative, not trying to catch up, because generally we as an industry, we're behind and we try to catch up. I think we're missing the boat on technology. Now, a suburban 500-room hotel in suburban Boise, yeah, probably needs a brand. But the kind of stuff we're all talking about, I think it's brand agnostic. And I don't see the value proposition anymore.
Edwin, let's go to you, sir.
Yeah, there's a lot that resonates. It's interesting. I was working with a neighborhood hotel that is not really connecting to the neighborhood or talking to the neighborhood, and I actually used the same thing last week about Cheers, where everybody knows your name, and it wasn't necessarily about really knowing your name, but really recognizing who's in your neighborhood when they come to town. I think it was really good. I sometimes feel we're complicating things too much. When you look at what definitions of hospitality is, people caring for people. In my perspective, right? And we've sort of lost that art. And I know you wrote a slightly different description or explanation about what hospitality means, but and we also lost the art. But you go back to the old days of hundreds and hundreds of years ago. You stayed in an inn. It was somebody's house. You had a proprietor. They welcomed you in. They cooked you a meal, whatever you wanted to eat. I mean, that was sort of where hospitality and hotels were born, right? And I think sometimes we're just overcomplicating things and designing things that all of us don't want, and it's troublesome. And you're talking earlier about wanting to see a check-in or not. I met an investor yesterday who I worked with for a year and a half, who was in. We designed a hotel, and I left once you started building in Ibiza. And he said yesterday, I'm looking for technology, exactly what you said, but I want to give guests choice. So if somebody wants to check in and not see anybody through WhatsApp, great. Somebody wants to not pre-check in and check in at a pool because they don't want to see somebody because they want to get up to a room or get into a pool, that's also good. But I'm also going to have a reception just in case somebody wants to arrive and have that conversation. I thought that was very clever, right? Because sometimes it's not, you need to have one or the other. I wanted to talk to you about this muddy middle, which I call a mushy middle.
Can I stop you? Can I stop you for 1 second there? And it's exactly what you said, and I'm going to tell you. I stand on stage and I say to everyone, I went to hotel school. Don't hold it against me. Useless. Yes, I said it.
I did
it's
too.
Not rocket science.
It was fun.
I stand on stage and I say, okay, people, I am going to give you a master's degree in hospitality from Cornell right now. You ready? I'm saving you $500,000. I grew up in the Middle East, and we have a saying that goes, when a stranger shows up at your door, feed him for 3 days before you ask who he is, where he's from, or where he's going to. Because by then he'll either have the strength to answer or you'll be such good friends it won't matter. And I literally dropped the mic. I 1000% agree with you. That is hospitality. But now we want, while you're standing at the urinal, we want a message above it that tells you, hi, we're cool. Look at us, look at us. We've become an industry of objects. We want to shock and awe you every time. Yet the most important thing we want to do is what you described and what I just talked about. It is really, 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 really simple. It is not rocket science, but we've lost our way. 100% agree with you.
And we'd get into boardrooms and we discuss all kinds of different options of stuff people don't need, when all we want is to be seen, heard. Just like when we were in our 18 and went to a nightclub and you wanted to be recognized by the bartender. I still know that feeling. That was the best feeling ever. Anyway, what do you think? It was Paul Stanton who wrote on LinkedIn, and it's a bit, you just talked about some of the other hotels that may lose business. But what do you think is going to happen with that $300 ADR rate? It was Paul Stanton who wrote an article, is it the death of the $300 rated hotel, meaning it's too expensive for many people, but it's too cheap because people won't, the high net worth individuals won't filter $300 as something as worthy. What do you think is going to happen in that middle bit?
I think you'll see a lot of,
because there's a lot of players in that middle.
Sure. And I'm one of them. I think you'll see a lot of consolidation for sure. I think people will flight to quality essentially. You'll start seeing the ones that are not really focusing on being different. Look, and again, I'm going to talk trash about people because I do. When Captioned by Hyatt, a sort of a lower tier brand, has a tattoo artist in the lobby, cool is dead. Cool does not exist.
Exactly.
So trying to be cool just because, I'm going to have a tattoo artist in the lobby.
We're making things up. Yeah.
Right. So I think you've got to find a way to build loyalty. Look, and I will say this shamelessly. We're not in the service business. We're not in the hospitality business. We are retailers. Our job is to sell those rooms that are a perishable product every day. If I don't sell the room today, it's gone tomorrow. If I sell t-shirts, if I don't sell the t-shirt today, it's still around tomorrow. I could resell it again tomorrow. So I think we've lost this idea of being retailers. And retail has figured this out where they say, we're not about transaction, we're about experience. We want you to love the brand. We want your loyalty to our brand. Then you can come transact with us. I live in Portland, Oregon, where Nike is based. And Nike knows you're not walking to the store and buying something. You're walking, you're screwing around, you're trying it on, you're going to buy it online. Not pay tax in your state or have it shipped to you. So I think in the middle, if we don't find a way to create loyalty with our customers through knowing them and seeing them, and finding ways to differentiate that are thoughtful, back to the respite idea, and to Zach's point about having a sense of discovery in those places, we're going to lose our way. So we need to be innovative. I love these two words. Everything I do in my company has to be thoughtful and intentional. Don't put a piece of art on the wall just because. But by the way, I also don't need to know the name of the worker who put the casted your toilet in some country. Like sometimes by the way, I wrote this on LinkedIn. I think Ben will appreciate it. I wrote this piece basically. It said, if the word storyteller is anywhere in your title or your profile, do yourself and us a favor and get rid of it. If you're a storyteller, tell us a fucking story. Don't tell me you're a storyteller, right? So I think we've overdone all of that. Yes. And I think ultimately we need to, Ian Schrager, again, forgive the name dropping, but these are the iconic people in our industry. I asked him, what's the future of design? And he said, we've overdone it. Back up a little, like light-handed. So I think we've overdone everything. We need to back up a little bit, be thoughtful and intentional in everything we do. And we need to think about eyeballs. Like, how do I get eyeballs on me? Because that's all we're fighting for. Back to my retail comment again. We're fighting for eyeballs. There's a lot of great hotels in that middle, but the one that resonates is the one that's going to get my attention. Now, personally for me, you know what's going to get my attention? Not the stars, not the diamonds, not the Michelin keys. It's going to be Ben's comment review that says, oh my God, I stayed at this hotel and look at what they've done for me. And by the way, I want Ben to tell me about the problem he had that they've solved elegantly, not about how great it was. So I think again, back to user generated, I want to go where my friends tell me to go, not where the algorithm tells me to go. And I think that's what we're fighting for. So the challenge I give to my team every day, literally this is the channel as I say, I want you guys to give me stories I can brag about on stage, like blow people away. And by the way, people think this concept is reserved for luxury. Here's the analogy I use. My wife and I are checking in at a Days Inn, okay, paying $40 a night with our 3-year-old daughter. And the front desk person overhears us say that it was our daughter's birthday. If I can create a culture and an environment that encourages that person after we check in to go to the vending machine, put $1 in, get a bag of M&Ms, take a sticky note that says happy birthday and deliver it to the room, I've won. This is not about buying me a Ferrari when I check in at the Peninsula. But that's not training nor SOP, because if you put an SOP, you'll be bankrupt, right? People will be like, oh, but Scott said he liked Rolexes, so I bought him a Rolex. Well, congratulations. It is not training. It is not SOP. It's culture. And that's a nebulous thing. I can't tell you how to create culture. You either know how to do it or you don't. So we need to really step back and look, Edwin, at the end of the day, everything in life goes in pendulums, and we tend to go to the extremes. We talked about this earlier. Right. We are at the very end of that extreme in that space. And the pendulum is either going to break, which it might, which means disastrous results, or it's going to swing all the way back. By the way, New York City has a backgammon cafe. All of a sudden, mahjong is a thing. People want to spend time together. Now, you've got to join that movement thoughtfully and intentionally. Don't do it for hyperbole and for the Instagrammable moment. But I think ultimately, kind of like restaurants you go to, you're going to go to the one that resonates with you. The food has to be good enough. It doesn't have to be Michelin star, but you're going to go to the place that you're loyal to. So our job, the way we protect ourselves and rise to the top, is to really focus on the interactions and not the things, and build loyalty, not bribery.
Sorry, that was incredible. This has been a ton of fun. I do want to maybe do some rapid fire questions. Maybe actually we could talk a little bit about the piece that we've been dancing around a little bit that you recently wrote on a hotel life, which I thought was great. Ladies and gentlemen, luxury has left the building. We've hinted at some of these things, but let me just tee up this little piece, and then maybe we can all riff on this, and then I think gentlemen probably call it an episode. Yeah. This has been fire. So Bashar, let me just give the listeners a little bit of context on the story. You published it this week, somewhat of a manifesto. You're really good at publishing manifestos.
Sermons, as someone called them.
Sermons, yes, yeah, even stronger. Love it.
Actually, wait. Wally. The best name the girl at ILC called it. They call them Basharticles. Which has shard in it, right? So kind of full of shit. It's perfect.
That's amazing.
Before you tee it up, by the way, I'm going to self-deprecate and challenge you guys to do the same. I talk about a lot of problems, right? And I get it. And I bitch a lot. And someone said, a good friend, I'm going to name him, Alex Cabanillas from Pyramid. He's a great friend. Said, dude, I love your stuff, but quit bitching about problems. Tell us what to do about them. We love you. Tell us what to do. So I am focused going forward on laying out the problem and give you my 2 cents on solutions. And I'm going to challenge everyone to jump in and offer solutions, because it's our job in this industry to make things better for everyone, right? So if I don't have the elegant solution and Ben, you have an idea, lob it in there and let's get a conversation going, and vice versa. So I'm challenging you all here. You're all well published and well listened to and well followed. Let's lay out the problems, but offer solutions.
Love it. Well said. And that's actually one of the challenges that I had. So you beat me to the punch, Bashar, as per usual. But for folks who haven't read the article, we'll link it in the show notes below. Bashar, hopefully this isn't an oversimplification, but your thesis is that the gap between what luxury hotels charge and what they actually deliver has become a structural problem. You argue that it's not just a bad quarter. This is something fundamental that needs to be thought through and fixed. The guests with real money and real taste, they've noticed these challenges. And yes, they're not taking the time to maybe write a piss poor review of your property. They're just not coming back, right? They're moving on. You argue that the industry has built this crisis one mood board at a time. Every hotel that opened in the last decade, as you say, calls itself luxury, has the same oversized coffee table books that are staged for photos, the same scripted
Tom Ford, to be exact, by the way. And we're calling it on this.
Yes.
Any hotel that has Tom Ford book anywhere in the hotel, do yourself a favor, Goodwill, send it away. We have beaten it to death.
Every hotel on Miami Beach. Every hotel in Miami Beach.
And by the way, funny enough, Tom Ford brilliantly, I'm sure his company now has Tom Ford 002, which is brilliant because they're like, we even believe it's been overdone. Let's give him a second version.
Good.
I love, and then you go on to like really hate on the word signature, right? Signature cocktail, signature scent, signature experience. When everything is signature, the word loses its identity, obviously. You could replace signature with lifestyle. You could replace signature with authentic, right? Pick your favorite buzzword.
Curated, handcrafted, whatever.
Exactly. You talk about this Virtuoso report, which backs up your strong thesis. This is Virtuoso's 2026 luxury report. They show that high net worth travelers are pivoting towards cultural immersion, privacy, and genuine connection to place over material displays. Their spending is actually up per trip, but the tolerance for these, quote unquote, empty status signals is down. We've even seen this in the move from maybe traditional hotels to private villas that folks are continually, especially the upper middle class, is opting more and more for, even if it is just a couple or a small group. You then go on to identify 6 qualities that separate hotels earning loyalty from those that are renting rooms. You talk about competence, clarity, character, space, care, and time. You talk about a litmus test that everyone should run, that if they stripped away the scent machine, the coffee table books, the arrival performance, the app, and all the merch, what's left? If it's gracious service and local truth, you have luxury, you have residence. And if it's silence, you never did, is what you posit. Edwin, I want your reaction.
Wait a minute. I sound really smart. Damn it.
Sound great.
I want to read that article now.
Yeah, Bashar, you and Scott have this in common. The way that you talk is the same way that you write, which is amazing. And I think actually going to be even more.
Thank God.
Important.
So we're not accused of AI, Scott. At least we actually sound like we write.
Here's my point, right? Is like we're in a world already where it's like the real test of someone's, intellectual honesty, intellectual ability. Forget even intellect, just their ability to have an opinion on something is going to be tested based off of real life, because you're not going to be able to judge somebody by what they write online anymore. Both of you guys are doing an exceptional job of this. But Bashar, before we get any additional color from you on the story that you wrote, Edwin, I wanted your thoughts because you spend a lot of time working with various hotels, oftentimes in the independent luxury space, and helping advise them on how to be relevant, how to be more competitive in their respective market. What did you think about Bashar's story? Anything resonate? And anything you'd challenge him on?
Yeah, listen, and anybody who wants to read the article, it's, Bashar, you write really well on a hotel life. One of my favorite platforms, set up back in the day by Ben Pundle, who I used to work with for years back at the edition times. And so anybody want to look at the article, I'm sure we'll tag the article. But really well worth reading. Listen, I would love for you to explain a little bit what you mean by competence, clarity, character, space, care, and time. What I'm concerned about is sort of the state of the world. If this is where luxury is going, if this is what the intent is likely for new builds, right? Because the properties you mention, and when you think of culture immersion, privacy restoration, genuine connection, that's hard to do for some existing properties. But if this is what the industry demands where luxury is going, what on earth is going to happen to all these other properties that exist?
I wrote a piece 6 months ago, maybe, kind of White Lotus piece. And I said, whoa, before you bitch, no, this is not another White Lotus piece. This is what can we learn from White Lotus? And one of the best lines in that article was the following. We keep building hotels for perfect guests. We keep building hotels for perfect guests. Yet the perfect guest doesn't exist. So I think we've overdone it and we've overformalized it and we've overdone all these things. So an existing property, look, I do not tolerate broken. I do not tolerate dirty. But a lot of places we love and resonate with us, I call them, and private clubs aren't going to like me for it, like the Soho House or the Nomad or any of those, dusty thrift shops. So they're layered, they're lived in. If you've ever had the opportunity to have been to the White House, as a hotelier, I look at a door frame and I'm like, what the fuck? Why are there 7 coats of paint? It's imperfect. But it's perfectly imperfect because it tells a story. There's history in the building. There's resonance. So some of these existing properties, again, I do not tolerate dirty. I do not tolerate broken, but I tolerate lived in. In fact, I'd like it to be lived in. I want my mattress to feel new, but everything else lived in. And there's character to those places. The problem, Edwin, is everybody looks at those places and say, shit, what do we do? It's too expensive to redo it. Well, you're thinking about it the wrong way. By the way, one of the most popular hotels in the country, arguably, for service is the Peninsula in Beverly Hills. Know the owner. He's a YPO buddy. And the place needs love. Like, it's not perfect. There's the Waldorf across the street that's pristine and new and shiny, but the Peninsula has character. But the reason people keep coming back to the Peninsula isn't the room, isn't the design. It really is the service. Now, service can only take you so far, right? You have to have the underlying product be good enough. But ultimately, reinventing luxury, in my mind, is about service, hospitality. Again, don't confuse service and hospitality. There's services, right? Yep. We have 24-hour this, we have a shoeshine guy, we have this. Those are services. Service to me is the equivalent to hospitality, but let's use hospitality. It's about building resonance. And some of the people that love the Peninsula that I know could stay anywhere, could pay any price. And Aman is coming to Beverly Hills and probably try it. but ultimately it really is about the service. So reinventing ourselves isn't the Tom Ford book, isn't the scent machine. And as I said in the article, when you strip all that away, by the way, when I meet someone and I'm maybe attracted to their bougie hat or shoes or handbag or whatever, when you strip all that down, what's left? And what's left is personality, right? I use the sexist analogy. And I talk about, after all my travels, forget ratings, forget Michelin, forget all that stuff. There's really only two kinds of hotels, memorable and forgettable, right? And what makes a hotel memorable, the quote I use in writing is, I only remember when someone goes out of their way and genuinely, underscore, gives a shit. So the sexist analogy I use is we're all sitting in a bar, Paris fashion runway model walks in who's a 15 on a scale of 1 to 10. Everyone is drooling. Men, women, old, young, dogs, everyone is drooling. She walks up to the bar. I walk up to her. I'm drooling, puddle of drool in front of me. 3 minutes in, I'm like, I've looked at you. I've drooled. You have nothing interesting to say. I'm out. I would much rather go to the less attractive, a 7, not a 4, right? Again, can't be broken, can't be dirty. It's got to be good, full of life and full of personality. The proliferation of private clubs, in my opinion, I'm going to go way left field on you here. When kids leave home to go to uni, right, to go to college, generally speaking, they're likely not coming back home. So we've lost this sort of intricate family connection. We don't belong to religion anymore. Religion is losing a lot of ground. Holy crap, political parties, shit show. So I say we're lost humans looking for our people. We are tribal animals. We need our people. So we're out there in the world looking for our people. So I've trademarked the term longing for belonging. I said that earlier. So if I can make you feel like you belong, particularly in a luxury setting, and what that means, by the way, is different for different people in different markets, and stop leaning on this authentic and handcrafted and curated and local, because a lot of it is noise. You have to act on it.
Yeah.
As long as we figure out a way to connect with people emotionally, look, rich or poor, we all want to feel important. We all want to feel seen, back to that seen thing. So I really think, Edwin, we're overthinking it. And I think fundamentally you talk about competence. Competence to me isn't training. It's giving people, Fritz Van Passion, ex-CEO of Starwood, CEO of Coors, first non-family member, CEO of Nike Europe, brilliant mentor of mine, said, you've got to give people flexibility within a framework, right? You can't let them run wild. Back to my, don't buy Scott a Porsche because he said he wanted a Porsche. So if you create framework, and that framework is, our goal is to build loyalty. I want Ben, the employee, to do it however he feels is appropriate to do it. Because if I make it prescribed, it's going to feel prescribed. And that's what's happened to luxury. Luxury needs to be relaxed a little, but don't come sit next to me on the chair when I'm ordering to take my order. Right. Does that make sense? It's totally. A little nebulous. It's hard to put in a checklist. But Edwin, you said you do this. I'm going to give myself a plug. If you're a fancy hotel and you want to fly me out, put me up for the weekend, I don't want your free room or your free flight, and you're willing to listen to me, my LinkedIn profile now says advisor to the brave. And that's the issue, Edwin, with advisory. I go to so many hotels and I'm like, I will do it for free. I will write the owner a note and say, here's what I would do if I were you. But they all think they're perfect and they all think they're cool and they don't want to hear it. If they actually took the time to listen, I could make a hotel memorable with spending $0.
Yep,
$0 because it doesn't take dollars. It really does not take dollars. So to me, it's about creating a framework, giving people flexibility, giving them the space to breathe, letting them be themselves. Like, why do I have to say good morning to you? What if I said hello? What if I said, how's it going? Like, why does it have to be good morning? That's so 1984. We don't live in that era anymore. So my proposition to you is the only way to fix it isn't with money. I will say it is with soul. And we touched on this earlier, and this was on my panel yesterday. The $64 million question is, can you scale soul? And I think the answer is only to a certain extent. It's not unlimited to scale.
I honestly think that the whole hospitality industry needs to realize one thing, and it's something my mother used to tell me when I was little. We grow old too soon and wise too late.
100%. Totally agree. And egos generally build empires. You need an ego to build an empire, but the only thing that destroys empires is ego, because they don't know when to stop. And you see all these founders that get to a stage where the company has passed their ability, but they won't let go. The other thing, again, public service announcement. Zach, if you're the owner or the founder of a company and someone asks you to come speak publicly in any context or on TV or whatever, if you're not a good speaker, do yourself a favor, find somebody better to do it. The problem 100%. Is no one ever does. So Zach goes on stage and he sounds like a fumbling baboon and he gives his company a bad name because of his ego. And Edwin, and to Scott's point, like I talk about those owners, some of whom are friends, and I don't want to offend them. I'm like, if you only give me an hour for free, I will do it for you free. Give me an hour. I will give you a list that costs you $0. That would take it from a 7 to a 9, maybe not a 10, for $0. It literally is that simple.
Yeah.
Bashar, what's a hotel in recent months that has been memorable? Like, give us a couple examples in the spirit of like, hey, I'm not going to just bitch about hotels. I'm also going to talk about what the solution is here. What are a couple quick examples of properties that you believe right now in this moment are doing something memorable?
I mean, these are going to be esoteric. It's never any big flash. Well, this one is flashy, forgive the flex, and this is bucket list again. South of Lisbon is Comporta, an hour and a half south. So the new Hamptons of Europe, basically, beautiful place. And about 30 minutes east is a village called Militic. It's literally a village, a church and a store. And in said village, there's a 13-room hotel called Vermelho, red in Portuguese. It's Christian Louboutin's hotel, red bottom shoes. And you would walk in there, and I've stayed at Bulgari and Armani and Versace and blah, blah, blah. Like you walk into a Bulgari and somebody threw up Bulgari and forgot to clean it up. There's cases everywhere and books everywhere and whatever everywhere. You walk into this hotel, and if you didn't know, you wouldn't know it's Christian Louboutin. It's all subtle hints, tile. Yeah, sure, the people are wearing the shoes, and then tucked in a corner somewhere, there's like a pair of flip-flops from Christian Louboutin, nothing else. The setting is spectacular. It's 13 rooms, it's easy. The setting is spectacular, and the service there was so simple. It wasn't stuffy, foreign language, right? But it just felt like you were going to your rich uncle's house in the countryside,
exactly.
where he had staff that has worked for him for 20 years. They're basically family, right? Like literally that's how it felt. So that's memorable. And sure, again, people say, well, yeah, sure, Christian Louboutin, it's memorable, whatever. But sometimes you see those. I mean, again, I'll give another shout out. I am at the Refinery in New York. I think it's still Highgate run, one hotel, Garment District, great little hotel. I go up to the rooftop, I go up to the bartender, and this is relatively recent, not that recent. And I know the game. If you want to get cred with a bartender, you order a Fernet Branca, an Amaro. So I'm like, Fernet, please. Guy disappears. 5 minutes, 10 minutes go by. I can't see him. I'm like, where the hell is this guy? I see him running back in with a bottle. And I say, oh, do you have to go to the liquor storage room? He said, no, we were out. I said, where'd you go? He said, I ran down the street and bought a bottle. Now, that's not training. That's not SOP. That's a culture that says you do whatever you need to do. And listen, we've all heard Will Guidara about the hot dog thing, and it's all great. And these are all small moments, and they're not literal. They're inspirational. That thing could have been, I use this example all the time. Scott's checking in. It's 2:00 in the morning. He's on a delayed flight, and he says, are any restaurants open? The SOP says, I'm sorry, sir, all restaurants are closed. End of conversation. The answer that would blow me away, that would change this, and this happened to me, everything is closed, sir. We're like, anyway, it was like in some suburbia, there's nothing around. And he says, they make us sandwiches overnight for the staff. We have a couple extra ones. Would you like a sandwich? Like, that is luxury. That is luxury. I don't need to have 24-hour room service because that bleeds the owner. But if you can make those small moves, those are the ones that are memorable. So honestly, out of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hotels, very few are memorable. Like a handful, not many.
Well said. I think we close on that, gentlemen. This has been amazing. And I know that we're over time here, but Bashar, really appreciate you, man, taking the time to just pontificate, to share your worldview. You're somebody who I think, I'll speak for myself, could just listen to you for hours, and I have listened to you for hours, and love any opportunity I can to learn from how you see the world. I do think the good challenge for everyone on this pod, everyone who's listening into this conversation too, is thinking about like, how do we fix these challenges, right? And like what are the innovative, creative, like doable ideas? And the problem with that is everything we're talking about is so freaking variable, depending on a thousand of factors. But
there are so many people smarter than all of us out there. Like I see it on LinkedIn. I actually, by the way, no agency, no bots. I am there. I could tell you who commented and what some people want to argue. Fine, I'll jump in with an argument with you. There are smarter people than us. I mean, again, Scott, maybe I'll speak for you and I, and maybe Edwin, right? Like we're aging, and our way isn't the only way. There's a better way. There's always a better way. Please jump in and tell us. Let's be civil. By the way, I encourage you to come and disagree, like loudly disagree. Tell me I'm full of shit, but offer me a different perspective, right? Like let's have respectful discourse.
Give me a solution.
That's the only way we're going to fix this. And by the way, favorite quote, may the bridges I burn light the way. So I'm not here to make friends. I am here to tell you my opinion. If you like it, great. If you don't like it, unfollow. Like, people sometimes are like offended. I'm like, if you're offended, fucking unfollow. Like, I don't need you. Move on. But I want you to engage. And for the love of God, I think I wrote this piece, and I think we all subscribe to it. And this is an important, again, public service announcement. I'm going to use, I don't know, Ben, back in the day, used to bleed on the page. Imperfect spelling. It was incoherent sentences, but it was you. It was blood, and it was beautiful. Now everything is perfect, right? Even if you write it and you clean it up, it's almost too perfect, and perfection becomes formulaic. It all looks the same. But I know you have an important point of view. Ben, I'm using you as an example, obviously, not literally, figuratively. Scott, like, give me your perfect imperfections. I don't need perfect sentences. I don't need perfect, give me your raw opinion. And by the way, don't color it for me. Tell me what you think, and I'll tell you you're full of shit, and let's have a debate about it. Don't write to please me. Write because you have a point of view. And if you don't have a point of view, I don't need to hear from you. Sit on the sidelines until you have a point of view. Like, by the way, I don't know if you see my posting. It's neurotic. Like, I'll do 5 1 week and then 0 for 2 weeks. Because when I feel like I have something to say, I'll do it. If I don't, I won't do it. So my request and begging of everyone is, forget perfection. Just come on and tell us what you think. Like this, raw and honest. Everybody wants it to be perfectly beautiful and perfectly perfect in every way. And it's become, honestly, like, I'm starting to unfollow people. It's annoying. And I used to love some of those. And I know those people that I'm unfollowing in person will be a different person. And I'd love to talk to them in person.
Whoa. Did he just
Did Zach freeze?
And on
all
that
of us
note.
froze. Yeah. On that note.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I think we got it. Gentlemen, thank you for the time. Bashar, thanks for making time out of your busy schedule to join us. For everyone tuning in, if you haven't already, like, comment, subscribe to the show. Appreciate you all tuning in to this week and every week. Edwin, Ben, Scott, we will see you next week. Bashar, we won't see you next week, but we will.
You're lost, buddy.
Your
Thanks
spirit.
for being here.
We will feel your spirit.
Thanks.
We need to do this in a bar live, kind of like Subway.
Yeah.
We need to
Let's
get
do
smart.
it.
Scott, let's do it.
I'm down.
Thanks for joining us this week. If any part of today's conversation sparked an idea or helped you think differently about the industry, we'd love to continue the conversation. You can find each of us on LinkedIn, on X, on Instagram, or whatever your preferred social platform of choice is. Links to all of our profiles are in the show notes below. This Week in Hospitality is presented by Journey. Journey is a loyalty platform built specifically for independent boutique hotels and high-touch hospitality brands. Our mission is to give operators the same powerful rewards engine, data intelligence, and guest insights that major chains rely on, without asking them to give up the individuality, the soul, and the story that makes their property so exceptional. At a moment when travelers are craving unique, meaningful experiences, and operators are navigating rising OTA costs, fragmented data, and shifting expectations, Journey provides a unified ecosystem that strengthens guest relationships, increases direct bookings, and helps independent properties thrive on their own terms. We're building a global, curated alliance of exceptional hotels, villas, and residences, a network that rewards exploration, empowers individuality, and gives independents the scale that they deserve. If you're an owner or operator of an extraordinary independently owned and operated hotel or residence, and if you want to see whether your property is a fit for the Journey Alliance, you can learn more and apply at alliance.journey.com. All right, friends, we'll see you next Friday. Until then, keep building experiences that are worth remembering.